Welcome into WSBU 88.3 The Buzz, live from St. Bonaventure University. You're listening to the Director's Cut with Nic Rohloff and Tyler Smith. We have a jam-packed show for you guys today, a big weekend in the sports world and a big week coming up in the sports world as college basketball is starting up tomorrow. So that's going to be electric. Combined with the college football playoffs heating up, it's getting there, and the football season officially reaching its halfway point yesterday. We got a great show to you, and there's nowhere else to start than Sunday Night Football like Tyler and I do every week. Tennessee Titans went into LA, defeated the Rams 28-16. Little bit of a shocker, Tyler. I did not expect this one.
100% a shocker. I mean, what did I just Tennessee, right? If we're getting funny with this, Tennessee. We were talking about last week when Derrick Henry suffered his injury. We were talking about Tennessee as a team that is going to struggle to scrape out 3 more wins to secure themselves a playoff spot. And now they come out on a Sunday Night Football game that nobody expected them to go out and win, let alone cover a 7-point spread last night and go out and defeat the Rams. The thing is about last night's game, though, it just didn't seem like Tennessee was like. Tennessee just didn't seem dominant. You know what did seem dominant was the Rams' inability to move the ball on the Tennessee defense, which has looked like a hot knife through butter all season long. Tennessee's been one of these teams that opposing offense is just targeted as a point of weakness within the Titans team, and the offense has been the one shouldering that load for Tennessee. Last night, the total flip-flop was the case, and Tennessee's defense came and balled out against probably the best offense in the NFL in what the Rams have. Tennessee's defense really showed up today. 2 interceptions, one of them being for a touchdown, another one being basically for a touchdown, gets stopped inside the 5, and Tennessee capitalizes with a touchdown on that drive as well. And at the end of the day, Los Angeles got held up every single drive. It just never seemed like they had a rhythm whatsoever, and Tennessee just dominated the pace of the game. Certainly no dominant performances offensively from any of Tennessee's stars that are left healthy. But they really well-oiled machine last night. Mike Vrabel coached a great football game.
Yeah, I mean, you said something about the Titans defense. It was unbelievable, uncanny. After the first, basically up to this point, the Titans defense has been non-existent and been pretty bad. But here we go against, like you said, one of the best offenses in football. A pick 6 and then a pick to the 1-yard line and essentially back-to-back plays. I couldn't believe my eyes. And Matt Stafford just didn't know I don't know what was happening in that first half. The announcers, Chris Collinsworth, kind of noted that they were going more drop back, standard West Coast offense. And usually Sean McVay gets moving the quarterback out of the pocket, rollouts, play action. And they were just kind of dropping back and throwing in the first half, and it really wasn't working. And when the Rams had success in that first half, or in the second half, was on the rollout plays, getting Stafford out of the pocket. I think it was just a little too late for the Rams to try to stage a comeback. But gotta get hats off to the Titans. No Derrick Henry putting up 28 in LA. No Von Miller, obviously the big trade acquisition. But either way, a Rams team who we both had at number 1 in our power rankings last week, getting bounced at home by Tennessee in a shocker.
Oh, we both had them in our top of the power rankings last week, and it's just not going to be the case again this week as we see some teams
opposite the Rams continue
of winning and staying consistent. Obviously, when you have a trap game like this, a team like the Rams, like Buffalo Bills, that we'll talk about later, are just going to be on the outside looking in when it's said and done for the top 5 teams in the league. Rams still might make it towards the bottom half of the Power 5 rankings, but you talk about Matt Stafford not being really there last night, and his receivers seem to be. Robert Woods 7 for 98, and Cooper Kupp obviously continuing his monster year with 11 for 95. Neither of them scoring a touchdown. Sony Michel got the lone honor there, but Los Angeles, just like I said before, didn't seem like they had any sort of rhythm last night. The defense looked good at times, But there'd just be a third down breakdown from the Los Angeles defense that was kind of uncharacteristic to what they've been all season long. I mean, obviously, like you said, they're missing Von Miller, who they just acquired via trade. So they're missing the pieces that they gave up in that deal. I think it was just one player. If not, then it was just all picks. The Rams gave up nothing, essentially. But they didn't have their new acquisition last night. Jalen Ramsey actually kind of getting into it a little bit with A.J. Brown, the young Titans star wide receiver. He looks amazing. Didn't have like I said, the Titans offense didn't have any star players last night, but A.J. Brown made plays when it counted. Didn't find the end zone, but like I said, he's making some big grabs and primarily guarded by Jalen Ramsey. That's not going to be the easiest thing to do for a full 60 minutes. So Jalen Ramsey post-game calling A.J. Brown a little bit disrespectful with some of his play and the way that the Titans kind of carry themselves. Nick, do you see any of that? And what was your take on it?
I was a little surprised. The Titans were known to get in a little scuffle last year, if you remember.
Yeah.
With the Ravens, there was some interesting beef. There was the Titans lining up or huddling at the Ravens 50-yard line. The Ravens didn't like that too much. And then when the Ravens got the last laugh in the postseason, they Marcus Peters took it a little too far, but they went on the 50-yard line of the Tennessee Titans. So maybe this is just who the Titans are a little bit. I wouldn't read too much into it. But I do want to get into outside of the actual game is, listen, the Titans now are 7-2. Atop the AFC. Are they no Derrick Henry for 6 to 10 weeks? I don't know if he would even try to attempt to come back in the postseason. The timeline says he could come back in the postseason. I don't know if he will. Are they legit? Are they Super Bowl contenders? Because even without Derrick Henry last night, they still look like the best team in the AFC, which somehow still lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars, or not the Jaguars, the Jets. But I can't believe they lost to that team in Week 4. But anyway, here we are now. Are they legit?
I mean, they have to be legit, right? One loss. I mean, you take away the Jets' loss, they're 8-1.
And the one loss was to the Cardinals.
The one loss to the Cardinals
is the best team in football.
The best team in football currently. They have to be legit. The offensive line is good. The receiving threats are great. The quarterback's good enough. And if the defense is playing the way they did last night, I'm sorry, you have to respect it. And that hasn't been something I've been able to say all year. Tennessee has not been the team that's been consistent enough on defense for me to be like, wow, they showed me something. They impressed me yesterday. That's what they did. And, for a team that I really probably couldn't name a single corner on outside of Caleb Farley, their first-round pick, who's injured, by the way. So he's not even playing.
Jackrabbit Jenkins.
Oh, my God. He's having, I guess, a little bit of a career resurgence in Tennessee because I haven't seen a productivity from Janoris Jenkins in 4 years. So I guess Tennessee's where you go to revive your career because he's a bunch of these defensive guys who have been, thrown by the wayside these past 3 seasons. Back in the mold and bullying people. That Tennessee defense looked legit last night, and that's what's going to happen.
That Tennessee defense looked legit last night, and that's going to have to be the difference.
I still don't buy into the committee of running backs they have, but if, like you said, if Jeffrey Simmons, I've kind of spaced it. Jeffrey Simmons. I was close. If he can do what he did last night, and then Bud Dupree gets healthy and attacks from the outside, I still don't love their secondary. Kevin Byard's really good as a free safety.
Yeah,
the secondary's weak, but if you can rush the passer like they did last night and not give the quarterback time to throw the ball, then that defense is going to work. But I want to say before we move on to the Monday night preview, because we're going to do that early today rather than at the end of the show. Are the Rams in trouble, or is this just a random occurrence we saw? I mean, we saw a ton of upsets yesterday, so this one is another one. Is it just this kind of weak thing, or the Rams have a little bit of an issue, especially when you look at that offensive line?
I wouldn't say the offensive line is definitely a problem. Andrew Whitworth, he's been so good for so long in this league. But that comes to be a problem, especially with offensive linemen as they age. Those 1-year differences become like 3-year differences from when they were in their prime. Tyron Smith, you're experiencing that firsthand. He's lost a step. Guys like Villanueva, who used to play tackle on the Steelers, now he's inside for the Ravens. He's not looking so great. And then obviously guys like Whitworth as well. Left tackle is such an important position in football, obviously. Everybody's seen The Blind Side, right? But, when you have a guy who's been productive for so long, it's tough to let him go. It is. And when you see a game like this, obviously it gives you a little bit of, fear for what the near future could hold. But, there has to be a point where you're like, are we going to take a guy who's more young and athletic and could play the entire snap count of the game? Or are we going to go with what has worked, but, might potentially not work in the near future? Andrew Woodward is the epicenter of that on that Rams offense, and he's not looked great over the past few weeks. So I'm just trying to get the schedule for the Rams real quick so I can see if they actually are in trouble. Long story short, I don't think they are. They're obviously still a playoff team. They could obviously still win the NFC West. And, with the talent they have, and you're obviously adding Von Miller, you can't block 3 people on Aaron Donald anymore. So it's going to be really tough for opposing quarterbacks to play. The Rams just upcoming. But as of right now, I think everybody gets a trap game. I think this is the Rams trap game. I could see people arguing that about the game they played against the Cardinals, but that's an interdivision game. Those could go either way and have a ton of extracurricular factors involved. The Rams had a trap game yesterday, and it just happened to be at home on Sunday Night Football. Everybody watched it.
Yeah, you wanted to look at the Rams schedule in San Francisco next week.
Yeah.
And then in Green Bay. Actually, then they have their bye. Then in Green Bay. And then home against Jacksonville, in Arizona, home Seattle, in Minnesota, in Baltimore. And they finish up in San Francisco, or at home against San Francisco. So it isn't the easiest schedule. Am I worried a little bit now since the Cardinals were able to pick up a win with Colt McCoy at quarterback and no Chase Edmonds and DeAndre Hopkins? I think the Rams are going to end up being the best wildcard team. So I feel bad for whoever the worst division winner is, because obviously the Cardinals now have a game up on them, and the way the Cardinals are playing, like I said, without their starting running back, star quarterback, star wide receiver, still picking a dub on the road in San Francisco. That's huge. It's unbelievable. And the Cardinals will get to play the Rams at home in the near future. And so I think the Cardinals win. So that first wild card playoff game, it's going to be either Rams Bucks, Rams, maybe even Cardinals, Rams Packers, or Rams Cowboys. That's going to be fantastic. And even if the Rams somehow come back, win the division, then that fifth is still going to be the Cardinals. That fourth playoff spot or fourth seed, the worst division winner in the NFC West, is going to be an all-time unlucky break, considering they're going to have to play most likely either the Rams or Cardinals at home. Usually, you would think it's going to be a tough game. Every tough game is in the playoffs. But you win your division, you get to play a wildcard team, you usually have a good little break. Not this year, and it's unfortunate for whoever it's going to be.
That's kind of like what happened with baseball this year. It ended up working not in these teams' favor, but the Dodgers and the Giants.
Exactly, yeah.
In that division, and then you end up having to play the Dodgers in a wild card game, and then that series happens. But the Braves obviously ended all guesses of that. But the thing is about the Rams' schedule is they don't play a bad team outside of Jacksonville for the rest of the season. I mean, am I calling
Minnesota too? It's iffy, but
Minnesota's lost about. I went on a whole rant about Minnesota last week, but they told me that they could play with the Ravens this week. They've had about 5 one-score games that they've lost, which can't happen if you want to be called a good football team. But I wouldn't say that they're bad. The only bad football team on here is the Jaguars, and you got to play the Niners twice, which is division. Anything can happen in the division game. I promise you that. At Green Bay, against Seattle, at Minnesota, like we saw yesterday, was a tough place to play for Baltimore. And then following that, they play at Baltimore, and they finish the season up hosting the Niners. So the Rams, I don't see a situation where they do win the division with that gauntlet, because the Cardinals, on the other hand, now albeit we've seen traps this year like no other in the league, but the Cardinals face a combination of the Panthers, the Bears, the Lions, the Colts, and the Seahawks twice. So my option with the game ahead, I would give it to the Cardinals. I think the Rams would be a wild card team, but I also think that the Rams could end up beating the Cardinals in said divisional game when it's all said and done. So either of these teams are both Super Bowl contenders. The Rams are going to be fine, but the Titans, opened up a little bit. Opened up my eyes last night. I think they could really make some noise in a bad AFC for what it looks like right now.
It's kind of like the same thing we've been kind of talking about a couple times. Like that, as a whole, the AFC is better from top to bottom. But you just look at those top 5 teams in the NFC, it's not even close. The Super Bowl, if you had to wager money and look at the odds for the Super Bowl winner to come from the NFC or the AFC, it is going to be heavily in the NFC's favor.
Heavily.
Like,
Heavily.
heavily. Like, it won't be. It's not going to be close.
It's not the only 2 teams who legitimately have a shot at winning the Super Bowl.
I give it 3 in the AFC.
Are you putting the Titans in there?
Yeah, I would.
Really?
Because they have such a good chance to get there. Because realistically, they're on track to get that number 1 seed. And if they were to do that, then you assume you let Buffalo and Baltimore fight it out on that other side. And if you just make it to the AFC Championship game, you got to beat one of them, and then you're there. So
true.
If you're just already there, put them in a 1-game situation. Do I think they're going to beat the Rams or the Bucks or the Packers? The Packers aren't going to get there, so I'm not worried about that. But I just listen. I've been down this road too many times. They just always lose in the big games, and I would still put them behind. I think they're the 5th team in the NFC.
The Packers?
Yeah, I think they're behind the Cowboys, Cardinals, Rams, and Bucks.
Cowboys had a trap yesterday.
That was a surpriser, but I'd still put the Packers 5th. Out of all those teams.
If we're not, crucifying the Rams for what they did yesterday, then we're not crucifying the Cowboys either.
Right. Yeah. Either way, I do put the Titans in that category. It's really just the Ravens, Bills, and Titans as we speak right now that have an actual chance to win the Super Bowl from the AFC. But either way. Let's move on to
another team in the AFC that's not going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
but they're playing tonight.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, Monday Night Battle, Bears-Steelers in Pittsburgh. Tyler, you put in the show notes, will anyone score in this game? The Steelers are favored by 6.5 points, over under 39.5. And then the second point you made is actually really funny too. More Justin Fields touchdowns or TJ Watt sacks?
That's a legit question.
Legit question. And I'm not even kidding with you. I think I'm more inclined to take TJ Watt sacks.
I'm absolutely more inclined to take TJ Watt sacks. I think TJ Watt gets minimum 2. Minimum 2 sacks.
Yeah.
Justin Fields isn't scoring 2 touchdowns. Justin Fields scores 2 touchdowns, this game goes over. So there you go. You bettors out there.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. Pick a winner and score. It's tough. I said I'm taking the over because it's 39.5. Anytime it's in the 30s, you got to take the over. Take the over.
Telling you no. Telling you right now, it's not going to happen. Justin Fields and the Bears is the worst offense in the NFL.
I think the Bears cover.
I think the Bears cover too, which is kind of weird.
6.5.
I don't think there's enough points that are scored for the Steelers to really cover this game, unless it's like a 17-3 win, which it could very well be.
Ready for this? This is my score prediction.
Okay.
27-20. That's what it is.
Oh my God! You think the Bears get up 20 points in this game?
2 touchdowns, 2 field goals.
There's just no way. Unless the Steelers are just the trap. If the traps keep coming, then yes, that's going to happen.
This week's been a weird week in the NFL.
So, what happened this week? So weird, and it's only right if it continues on at Monday Night Football. There's no Madden cast tonight, right?
I don't know. There's a curse. Did you see the curse?
Oh, the curse is.
There's a legit curse.
Legit Madden cast.
Every person who has gone on that show, the following week they play, they lose. And I really thought it was like, it's just a joke. Josh Allen.
4 out of 6.
Allen was on it last week. Lost this week to the Jaguars.
It's actually they're actually shooting the curse.
100%, yeah.
No, shooting more than 100% because in the first week, 2 people went on and lost the next week.
You want to talk about it? You want an added one? LeBron was on it. He might be out 1 or 2 months.
Really?
Yeah, I saw something on. We're gonna get in the NBA after we take this break.
Yeah.
But just tell you about that real quick. I saw something. LakersDaily.com popped up on my Twitter feed. Said it could be worse than imagined. Possible 1 to 2 months.
Those Lakers fans on the internet are legitimately murder investigators. They
know things.
They know everything.
LakersDaily.com is a legit news source if you want Lakers basketball.
Oh my God, they're LA paparazzi. That's how those Lakers fans act. They dig for every little nugget of information, especially when it comes to LeBron James. Now we have to get back to Monday Night Football game. Like I said, is anybody going to score? I really don't think so. The Steelers' offense stinks. The Bears' defense can play at times. It can. They can get a pass rush, and Big Ben is the most immobile quarterback I've ever seen step on a football field. So that could happen. My score prediction is Steelers still win the game. I'd like to say that they win. They're going to cover, and the game's going to go under. I'd like to say the Steelers win 20-7. So we're taking some of the next digits, but we're not.
I also changed my mind before we go to break. I'm changing my score 24-20 Steelers.
So it's still going over.
Taking 3 points off.
He's still going over, but the Bears now cover for Nick. The Steelers cover for me. 20-7 is what my final score prediction is. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're on the hardwood now. NBA this week in this league. And like Nick said before, college basketball is back. And that means the Bonnies are back tomorrow. It all starts. Stick with us. You're listening to WSBU 88.3 The Buzz, the Director's Cut with Nic Rohloff and Tyler Smith.
Welcome back into WSBU 88.3 The Buzz, live from St. Bonaventure University. You're listening to the Director's Cut with Tyler Smith and Nic Rohloff. We just got into the Sunday night football breakdown and the Monday night football preview, and now it's time to go into the NBA hashtag this week in this league, and I am excited for this discussion because I woke up this morning to some outlandish reports from Shams, if you don't know him on Twitter. He's one of the top NBA insiders in the league, reporting that your Boston Celtics have engaged with discussions with this Philadelphia 76ers for maybe our favorite player in the league combined, Ben Simmons. This would be a nightmare for Tyler. But to add fuel to the fire, there is also a report that if the trade were to get done, it would require Jaylen Brown, a noted Tyler favorite, who said he was going to be a top 15 player after the league season has ended. So, Tyler, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, you just dangling somebody who dropped 46 in the opener over a guy who won't play? No. I'm telling you right now, Brad Stevens is a great basketball mind. He knows what he's doing. We promoted him from within to the front office this year, now with the intention of doing some nonsense like trading for Ben Simmons when his value is at his lowest. Ben Simmons tanked his value from the Philadelphia 76ers. He is untradeable at the moment. There is no way, from what Philly wants for Ben Simmons, a team will not provide. There is zero chance of this. Brad Stevens called up the phone and said, hey, Ben Simmons hasn't played this season. What's it going to take? Daryl Morey picks up the phone and says, oh, hey, Brad, it's going to take Jaylen Brown. Brad Stevens says, okay, have a nice day, hangs up the phone, and that's the end of the conversation. I promise you that. There's no way in any reality that Ben Simmons gets traded for Jaylen Brown straight up. And if it happens, I've been a fan of the Celtics when I told Nick this earlier. I've been a fan of the Celtics when their best two players were Chris Humphries and Gerald Wallace. Okay, I will not back out of the Celtics. But if you did trade Jaylen Brown for Ben Simmons, there would be some issues, especially on my Twitter. There'd be some problems. I'm telling you, there would be.
I just can't see it happening. But it would be laugh out loud funny if it did. I don't get what they're going with. Jaylen Brown, you can argue who's a better player. I'd probably lean towards Jaylen Brown. Ben Simmons is a defensive wizard. I will get this is the rare Ben Simmons praise by me. I think in my mind, a top 5 defender in the league just because of his versatility. So he is very talented on that end, but brings very little to the offensive end. And in a team that seems to be in their struggles, I don't know, what would you say their biggest struggle is? We kind of talked about their struggles last week, but they had a better week this week.
They did.
What is the Celtics' biggest struggle? Because I don't think Ben Simmons would fix that.
I don't think Ben Simmons fixes it at all. I think it's just at this point, the Celtics need to play better. They're not. Their chemistry is way off. Jason Tatum hasn't been shooting well at all. They had a big win over the Heat, your Heat, earlier last.
Fraudulent game doesn't count.
Fraudulent game, whatever. There's 82 games this season. That one counts just as much as game 82 does. All I'm saying.
Throwaway game doesn't matter.
Jason Tatum, Celtics go out and beat the Heat by 20, and Jason Tatum has
nothing.
Legitimately nothing. Shooting less than 35% from the field or something like that. Nonsense from Jason Tatum. He is probably one of the NBA's most underwhelming players to start the season. I mean, he had a 40-point game once, and that's about it. He's up there with Trae Young, Damian Lillard, Devin Booker, up there with the most disappointing players this season. But the Celtics have put together some wins with him playing the way that he is. Should have beat the Mavericks. So they were down the whole game, but they came back, were up in the fourth quarter. Should have beat the Mavericks. But, with Luka Doncic, another one of those players who's been incredibly underwhelming to start the season, just decided to go God mode against the Celtics and hits the ridiculous game winner right in Marcus Smart's face. Marcus Smart had a stupid foul right before that.
Okay, I want to ask you about that. And if the viewers didn't see the play, it looked like he intentionally fouled him.
Yeah, he did.
I saw it live, and I could not believe that it happened. I was very, very confused on why they would foul. Because, just to set the scene, there was about 14 seconds left and was 8 seconds left on the shot clock. So the Celtics would have got the ball back if Luka, and it would have been a tough shot because there wasn't a lot of time left. Luka would have had to force it up. They would have got the ball back. But instead, Marcus Smart intentionally fouled them with 11 seconds left, which reset the shot clock to 14, which means they could have held it for the last shot. And they did, and it went in. So I was wondering what your thoughts on with that.
Marcus Smart tries to out Marcus Smart himself every game. It seems he finds a way to just reel all the Celtics fans back in with a block and then a dive for the ball on the other end. And then he comes back on the other end and shoots a three and makes it. And that's the Marcus Smart that everybody loves, right? This is the Marcus Smart that you get for 40 out of 80 games, and it just can't happen. The intentional foul, whether you want to call it intentional or not, was just not with the right intentions of the team. You lost us the game at the end of the day. That's what lost the game. You probably win that game if you have the last shot. And at the end of the day, Luka was the best part of the floor. He hit the big shot, and that's how the game ended. The Celtics, they don't look great, but again, not a lot of NBA teams do look great right now. And they're 4 and 6. They're at the 11th seed in the playoffs, but who's at number 10? The Nets. So at the end of the day, we are in October or November. Sorry, now we're at the beginning of the NBA season. There's 82 games, and it's going to take a while before we can judge on who does what well and who doesn't do what well, and who is going to be the formation of what the playoffs are going to look like. We're not going to know who could even be a top 4 seed for a month or two. There's a lot that has to happen in the NBA going forward. Right now, the Celtics sit at 4 and 6. Like I said,
so do the Bucks.
The Bucks not great either, losing a 20-point game to the Knicks when they were up 20 earlier in the game. So everybody can lose, everybody can have bad days. It's just going to come down to who has a great stretch over an extended period of time that vaults them, whatever team, into the top 4 in their conference. Right now, we can't make that judgment.
I think there's you can pick 2 teams to be in the top of the East, as we're speaking.
And yes, Brooklyn, but does Brooklyn get Kyrie back? What's the deal?
I think they've started to turn the corner. 5 straight wins, 7-3. As it would end today, the 3 seed. I think they've kind of found their stride as a team. They've been very good defensively, only giving 103 points per game, which has surprised some. Their offense is lacked, but that's only coming along as we go for each and every game. So I think Brooklyn's going to be locked in as a top 4 seed. Miami, the way they defend and play offense and the way they try hard almost every other night or every night would probably put them in the top 4. If you look to the West, though, you don't know anything. But
the Warriors could be at the 7th seed by the time it's all said and done. We think that they're good, but you never know.
Not to mention, I wanted to rant about how the Clippers were surprisingly awful starting the season 1-4. They've rattled off 4 in a row, and they're now 5-4.
Paul George is a beast.
Paul George is having an outstanding start to the year.
He loves when he can just run a team by himself.
I can't believe the Mavericks are 6-3. They've had such an interesting start to the year as well. They're being outscored on an average by 4.5 points, and they're the 6-3.
Kristaps Porzingis hasn't looked great all year. Luka Doncic hasn't looked phenomenal all year. Obviously, you get one of those wins from making a crazy shot over the Celtics, but neither of them have looked great all year. They still sit 3 games above 500. You don't know what's going to happen. Damian Lillard's still averaging 20 points a game, so he's bound to pick it up at some point. The Suns are bound to pick it up at some point. The Jazz look good, but they looked really good against the Heat in that one game in the fourth quarter. Before that, they looked really, really bad. So the NBA, not only is the 48 minutes you play on the hardwood a game of runs, but the season's a game of runs as well. There's teams that are going to fall into slumps, and then there's teams that are going to get really hot, but neither of them will be in that same situation when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Warriors, and I want to take a deeper look at them because they have technically the best record in the NBA at 8-1. They've got the best defense in net rating, and this is without Klay Thompson and their top 3 pick James Wiseman of last year. So the Warriors are out to an outstanding start. Obviously, they have Steph Curry, and one of the bigger reasons is the improvement of Jordan Poole. He is averaging 18 points per game. He is playing very good. He's been the second best player on the team, to be quite frankly with you. And it's kind of surprising. Listen, I picked the Warriors to go be the 4 or 5 seed, and I was going to assume that they were going to have a good year. I actually picked them to go to the finals last year before Klay Thompson got injured for the year, if anybody can remember that. But the Warriors look fantastic. Curry's been not having to shoulder the work as much as he usually has. He's averaging 25 points. He led the league in scoring with over 30 last year, and he's down 5 points, but it doesn't matter. He's averaging 6 assists and, believe it or not, 6 rebounds. Draymond Green's playing great at 8 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. I mean, just as a whole, the Warriors as a team has played fantastic, and they're still getting the number 2 pick from last year back and a perennial top 3 shooter in the league, Klay Thompson.
And, you checked off all the boxes right there. What I'm really interested to see is, we all know what Klay can do. Do we know what he's going to do post-injury? He looks great in the workouts that I've seen. The shot looks the same. He looks fine as a whole. I'm really excited to see what kind of steps James Wiseman can take. Like you said, number 2 overall pick last year. He showed flashes, but just not the most successful rookie season that you might have expected. Can James Wiseman really elevate this team? Because in the front court, probably the outside of Draymond Green, who's 6'5" on a good day, their best front court player, Nemanja Bjelica?
Nah, no, there's no way.
Who else is better in the front court for them?
Other than Draymond, there's no one.
Yeah, there's no one. Bjelica is their best.
He stinks. I don't care what anyone says.
He's good. I'm sorry. He
stinks.
Great addition for
the
awful. Warriors bench. That brings them a lot of depth that they didn't have in the front court last year. Once Wiseman comes back, Iggy's actually looked really good for them. Yeah,
of course they do. 2 people you said, Andre Iguodala and Nemanja Bjelica, 2 Miami Heat players from last year who did absolutely nothing, but now want to.
Heat last year?
But yeah, they traded for him at the deadline.
Oh, I never saw him play.
Exactly, because he was awful.
That's awesome.
And then he goes to the West Coast Warriors and turns into an absolute stud off the bench.
No wonder Nick was just telling me he stinks. I was like, wait.
Well, he does stink.
What vendetta do you have against my guy Bjelica?
He usually does stink. That's the thing.
He's got the strap. I'm sorry.
Oh, come on.
Strapped up.
Come on.
The Warriors are good. Once they get Wiseman back, like I said before, I'd love to see the step he takes this year. Hopefully it's a big one because, there was a lot of hype for him coming out. He's not a 7-footer, so he's not going to be that immobile guy. He still flows within the Warriors' offense. The guy can move, guard, two, maybe 3 positions. The guy, he's about 6'10". So we'll see what happens with Wiseman. Maybe he develops a little more consistent of an outside shot as well. That would help the team as well tremendously. York Heat, we mentioned him a little bit. They're doing real well as well. Jimmy Butler, actually, according to Basketball Reference, is the number 1 in the MVP ratings so far.
It's because he has an insanely high PER, which, if you didn't know, leads to player efficiency. Mm-hmm. He's averaging 24.7 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. But here's the thing: he's the league leader in steals, 2.3 a game.
He's scoring more than usual.
Exactly. And listen, you and I have been noted Kyle Lowry not fans. I have to switch my tone on him a little bit because he's on my team. Mm-hmm. And I think I mentioned this just a tad bit last week. But his ability to create and look ahead is just second to none. The problem with the Heat last year is that they relied on Bam and Jimmy to score, but set everyone up. Mm-hmm. Like literally every single player on the team had to be set up by Jimmy or Bam. And now you had Kyle Lowry, who doesn't care about shooting, doesn't care about scoring, just wants to win, gives dimes, pushes the ball ahead of Jimmy, Bam. And then now you got Tyler Hero, clearly the best 6-man in the league right now, averaging 21 points per game, 6 rebounds and 4 assists, while shooting very efficient in 31 minutes. Also, want to go back to Charles Barkley, saying that the reason why Hero's playing good is because he's going against the scrubs in the second unit. Utter ridiculous take by Charles Barkley.
Because the NBA is so talented now that half of these starters could have been starters 10 years ago, or half the bench players could have been starters 10 years ago. Like, the talent is absurd. Everybody can shoot. Everybody can defend. You're not finding a huge discrepancy, especially between fringe starters.
He also plays the 4th most minutes on the Heat and is playing the last 7 minutes of the 4th quarter every game.
Games, so
anyway, that was just a quick little tangent on me. But the Heat, we mentioned the Warriors' defensive ratings. I still believe if you match it up with anyone, the Heat are the best defensive team in the league, just with their ability to switch.
Agreed.
Jimmy and Bam just are unbelievable.
Jazz are up there too.
Jazz are very good. Bam owned Gobert on Saturday night, which made me very happy because I've been an avid Bam is better than Gobert as a whole the past couple of years. I get some pushback on that with some of my peers, but I digress. But anyway, the Heat are very good. Not much I can complain about or say other than just a random lucky Thursday game that meant nothing to me last Thursday.
Meant a lot to me. I don't know. I'm just a guy who appreciates the win.
But anyway, if you just look at the league, the Heat are, I think, the best team in the league. If I were to give my power rankings, I think I got the Heat 1, and then Warriors would be right behind them. I'd put Brooklyn 3, the Jazz 4, and then, I don't know, maybe the 76ers 5 as we speak right now because they have looked good. Probably will lose today to the Knicks, though. No Joel Embiid, no Tobias Harris. So,
well, according to production directors Carter Raymond's bet dumb theory, the Philadelphia 76ers should absolutely win today at home. Plus money. They're playing New York. They're missing 2 guys, but they're only 2.5-point dogs. That's why it just screams that the Phillies going to win. I don't know why, but it's called the bet dumb theory, and that's why.
Are you going to be following the theory?
I don't know if my pockets are ready for that. I got a big game to maybe perhaps place a wager on tomorrow, and we should probably get into that right now. It's probably a good segue to transition because college basketball is back. Okay, you see this shirt. I was at the Under Armour reunion at Madison Square Garden 3 years ago. That's how much I love the college basketball non-conference schedule. This is so great to be back. We have fans back in arenas. We have the Bonnies. We have the Riley Center back with fans in the arena. By the way, the way you get tickets for Bonnies games, I don't know if
big issue.
You've experienced it. Have you experienced it firsthand?
I have. I was lucky enough to get a ticket.
Okay, lucky enough to get a ticket. So for reference, St. Bonaventure has implemented a new system for getting tickets this year where they drop at a certain time, like a literal world tour for a musical artist would. And you got to get on the app as soon as you can. Spam your fingers and try to get a ticket. And then if you don't get it, they could be sold out in legitimately 15 seconds for a school with 2,000 students. I mean, they could be.
They were out basically what I think was
30 seconds.
No, it was like 15 minutes.
Oh, well, I'll tell you right now that some of my fans were experiencing my fans. Some of my friends were experiencing issues with the app, technical issues with the app, and then ended up giving them maybe one person actually got 13 tickets.
What?
13 tickets for the game.
That seems.
I heard other people getting 4, other people getting 5.
Why?
Because they just kept spamming it to see if they could get the ticket, and it ended up giving them more than just the one. So there's your issue with a much of what's going on with the SBU Connect app and the ticketing system. It's not a good look. I haven't tried since I'll be covering the games for WSBU, so I haven't experienced this firsthand. But my friends are saying it's just a huge, just a waste of resources, really, because at the end of the day, what was wrong with the old system?
I don't know.
All you had to do to go to a Bonnie's game just 2 years ago, when my freshman year, Nick's sophomore year, all you had to do was walk through the doors, show them your student ID, you're in, you're good to go. And that's all it was. And why you stray away from that, I have no idea. Promise you, they're capping the student sections or student seating at 850. There has never been a game where 850 students show up to a game. It's just not how college works. Not everybody's a sports fan. Not everybody cares about Bonnie's basketball. You should. They're going to be great this year, but not everybody cares, and that's fine. You're never going to get 850 kids at a game. So just show your student ID and walk in. You're saving so much trouble with QR codes and all this nonsense of kids getting 13 tickets when obviously they don't need them and they don't even want them. And tickets being sold out and within minutes. Like this is not Ariana Grande's world tour. You're not asking for a sold out Madison Square Garden right now. You're asking for a packed Riley Center, and that if you're going to get that. But if you're having all these technical difficulties, it's just not going to work out that way. But we have actual basketball to be played tomorrow. The Bonnies are back, 7 p.m. Siena is coming to town. The Franciscan Cup. I know you guys don't know that one too much. It's an underrated non-conference rivalry, the Siena Saints versus St. Bonaventure Bonnies. They'll be traveling to the Riley Center tomorrow. New look squad for Siena, bringing back no double-digit scorers. St. Bonaventure bringing back 5 double-digit scorers in the starting lineup, all 5 seniors, Kyle Lofton, Don Welch, Jaron Holmes, Jalen Attaway, and Oshuni, man in the middle. It's going to be a fun one tomorrow, Nick. How excited are you?
I'm pumped. Can't wait. It's going to be outstanding. The crowd's going to be electric.
I hope it is.
I mean, it's got to be, even though it's Siena. Bonnie's ranked for the first time in 50 years. 23 in the AP poll. And then you got, like I said, first game in 2 years. A lot of hype. People are going to be amped. But before we go and break down the game like intensely, I want to give a quick shout out to our station.
Of course.
Because if you haven't seen on Twitter, Instagram, you have to see it. Our sports department, WSBU, has created a top 25 in the college basketball scene, and we will be doing a new top 25 every Monday at 9 a.m. It will be new release. I want to give a quick shout out to the first week's voters: Tom Sipe, Tyler, Carter Raymond, Matt Shalou, Bryce Kelly, Michael Seitz, Jonathan Walker, Alberto Calderon, Nate Solomon, Thomas Baia, Will Hamilton, Dustin Green, Jonathan Groff, and Nick Rizzo. Thank you for all that. It was fantastic. And our top 25 is not the same as the AP. A lot of difference. Biggest issue with me is Memphis at 14. They should be higher, but I don't want to break it down too much. Bonnie's could be a little biased. I don't know, but is up.
I don't mind. I personally, I will go out and say my rankings. I had the Bonnies at 20, so that's where they averaged out to be in our rankings.
I had them at 22.
Guys like Tom Sipe, you may have had him at 22. Some of us had him at 23. Guys like Tom Sipe had him at 15, which sways the rankings a little bit. 15 total voters. I think it's awesome. I think we have a great little system going on right now. That's just great for the station, like you said. Really excited. I thought, just my personal opinion, not going to go too much into it. Indiana should be in. I had it at 21.
They weren't even the first out.
They're getting a little shafted.
UConn was the first out.
I had UConn in as well.
UConn was my first out. I did it when I sent mine in. I did the top 25 with a nice little caveat. First out, the first out was UConn.
All right. Well, Dan Hurley obviously coming back. They will play the Bonnies on a neutral site December 11th, and UConn bolsters a really, really nice front court, and probably their best since Andre Drummond era. So that should be a real test for Oshun and maybe Kareem Koulibaly if he enters the fold as a new depth piece for the Bonnies. And speaking of the depth pieces for the Bonnies, we saw them play last week for the first time against Alfred in a exhibition.
Yeah, it's an exhibition.
D3 Alfred, scrimmage, exhibition, whatever you want to call it. Coach Schmidt's son, Mike, currently plays for the Alfred Saxons, so it's a nice thing that they get to do every year right before the season starts. Bonnies waxed them. It was pretty much a 40, 50-point game for the most part in the second half. But, guys were able to get some run, and we saw what some of our new pieces were capable of. Jalen Iway and Kyle Lofton both did not play in that game. Both are also listed as game time decisions for tomorrow night's Siena matchup as well. But Linton Brown had 19 points. Some people have hopes for him. I'm not sure where he'll fit in the rotation. Quadri Adams, another question mark. He's coming here from Wake Forest. He had played 35 minutes against Alfred. So both those guys were reportedly struggling in practice and then given those big minute loads against Alfred to maybe regain some confidence for the young guns entering the St. Bonaventure lineup.
Yeah.
Nick, did you see anything you liked from the depth?
I just couldn't believe that Schmidt said that. And he was asked, I could not believe that he openly admitted that Linton Brown and Quadri Adams have struggled in practice. Mm-hmm. I was utterly shocked by that. But anyway, I know it's Alfred. You can't read too much into it. But I like the way Linton Brown looked. His outside shooting stroke looks solid. He could be a nice bench shooter. Quadri Adams is a nice defensive point guard who can run the offense, attack the rim, very athletic. I don't know which backup big is going to get the most playing time behind Oshun.
It's going to have to be Koulibaly.
You're probably right. I was going to hope that Justin, I'm going to botch the heck of the name. Yeah, I was hoping he was going to give a nice help, but who knows who gets the backup big role. But I think that's the most important one because Oshun can't play 35 minutes, 38 minutes. Just because his body will wear down, one, and number two, he's a shot blocker, so he's gonna pick up fouls. So the backup big is gonna be necessary. Absolutely. That's I think the X factor for this year's team. His last year wasn't the greatest backup big, but
shout out Jalen Shaw though. You did your thing. You scored points in the A10 championship.
Yeah, he did. But like I said, it was that starting five going crazy. So those 2 or 3 bench spots, I think that's as far as Mark Schmidt's gonna go. It's going to be absolutely necessary if this team wants to be in the top 25 all year and be a top 5 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, interestingly enough, St. Bonaventure rolls in at number 23 in the AP top 25. They play Siena in the opener and Canisius in the second game, which will be Sunday at 5. Weird timing for a college basketball game.
Very odd.
The Riley Center will still be rocking a little bit, even though it's right in the middle of NFL Sunday. Luckily, it's not during the Bills' time, which would be 1 p.m. versus the Jets next week. But Bonnie's open up 2 games against MAC schools. Not exactly your highest level of competition. Tomorrow, the line is 20.5, and the over-under is 136. So Ken Pom has the game rated. The Bonnies win 79-58. So hopefully they do take care of business in these first 2 games and keep their spot in the top 25. But there's a chance that the Bonnies win these 2 games. They could be knocked out of the top 25 as early as next week with some of the games that are going on early in this college basketball season. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I think the Bonnies take care of business tomorrow. The Bonnies, though, have not won a home opener in 4 years. They had lost my freshman year, your sophomore, to Ohio. Jason Preston currently in the NBA, so that was a long time coming. We saw firsthand what he was capable of 2 years ago. Year before that, Oshun injured right before his freshman year opener. Bucknell overtime. You were there for that one.
Courtney Stockard also didn't play.
So the Bonnies have had some injury concerns heading into the home opener. They have them again tomorrow, so that's really some thin ice the Bonnies are walking on. The year before that, Jalen Adams doesn't play in the home opener, and they lose to Niagara in a heartbreaker as well. So it's going to be real interesting tomorrow. 20.5 seems like a lot of points for a team who hasn't won a home opener since 2016. So could be seeing some odd things going on in the Raleigh Center. But, hey, we're going to stay optimistic. We're going to stay real because the Bonnies have never been ranked in the last 50 years. That is the constant that they are not going off this year. They're going to win tomorrow big. Siena doesn't bring back, like I said before, no double-digit scorers. They bring back an entirely new roster. And their top 2 players heading into the season are sadly injured out for the season. So the Bonnies are, I don't want to say it, but they're getting a little bit of a layup tomorrow. Hopefully they convert.
I got Siena plus 20 now.
Oh!
Gotta do
sacrilegious.
it. Gotta do it. Can't do it.
Crazy.
Too many points. I've seen too many Bonaventure games.
It's a lot of points.
Is that
the most that Bonaventure's been favored by in over 3 years? I think it has to be.
3 years?
Well,
definitely.
Were they favored by
20, Were they favored by 20 or more in
the Jalen Adams?
Yeah, I was like, I wish
I would look. That would take a little bit of digging for me, but I will go back on that at some point.
And
I'll see if I can fire out a tweet that says this is the most the Bonnies have been favored by in the last probably half decade. If maybe they were favored by a bunch against a team like Niagara, Canisius, that Matt Mobley, Jalen Adams year, but I'm not sure. I doubt that they were.
Yeah, I don't know.
20.5 is a lot for a Bonaventure team. Now they've beaten teams by 20.
There's a couple. Yeah, it's going to be tough, but I don't know. I want to just, before we head in the break and get a mid-hour update from our very own Nate Solomon, I want to talk about the Champions Classic tomorrow because 2 good games.
Great games.
Number 3, Kansas versus Michigan State. And then number 9, Duke versus number 10, Kentucky.
Awesome.
Fantastic games. I just want to pick those real quick. I will spoil. I'm taking your Duke technically fan. I know Bonaventure comes first.
Bonaventure does come first, but I'm a Duke guy.
I think Duke wins, and then I think Kansas is going to be really good this year. Mm-hmm. They're favored by 4.5 against Sparty. I got that hit.
I also got Kansas. I think it dropped to 4 as well on some books earlier today. So I would love a little Kansas -4. I'm actually going to take Kentucky tomorrow. Duke's gonna fall in the
opener.
They are.
No.
Yep.
Kentucky's. I like
Washington. He's a dog.
Kellen Grady transferred from Davidson there, but
I'm not in on the Kellen Grady.
I don't buy into the Kentucky.
I need to see it.
Not buying into the Kentucky Wildcats this year.
I need to see it.
As much as I want to, I don't think I can. All right, so we're going to head to break. When we come back, we got our mid-hour update from Solomon and then football for the rest of the show. We break down what happened in the college football weekend, and then we head into week 9 of the NFL season. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Director's Call with Tyler Smith and Nic Rohloff on WSBU 88.3 The Buzz.
Am I going ready?
Two.
88.3 The Buzz, St. Bonaventure. This is the director's cut. I'm Nathan Solomon, and this is
your mid-show up.
Yesterday, the NFL, the Buffalo Bills lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars, losing 9-6 in Jacksonville. Josh Allen was 31 for 47 with 264 yards and 2 interceptions. Trevor Lawrence threw for 118 yards off 15 of 26 passing. Neither team scored a touchdown. The Cleveland Browns beat the in-state rival Cincinnati Bengals 41-16 on the road in Cincinnati. Baker Mayfield threw for 218 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Browns, while Nick Chubb rushed for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. The New York Giants beat Las Vegas Raiders 23-16 at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. Daniel Jones threw for 110 yards and a touchdown, and Devontae Booker rushed for 99 yards. Derek Carr threw for 296 yards off 30 for 46 passing. The Baltimore Ravens beat the Minnesota Vikings 34-31 on Sunday in overtime. Justin Tucker had a 36-yard field goal with 16 seconds remaining in overtime to win the game. Lamar Jackson threw for 266 yards and 3 touchdowns for the winners. The Kansas City Chiefs finally surged above 500, beating the Packers 13-7 and moved to 5-4 on the season. Patrick Mahomes threw for 166 yards and a touchdown, while Jordan Love threw for 190 yards for the Packers. Green Bay falls to 7-2. In Sunday Night Football, the Tennessee Titans beat the Los Angeles Rams 28-16 on the road to advance to 7-2. Ryan Tannehill threw for just 143 yards, but 2 picks for the Tennessee defense powered the team to victory. Tonight, the Chicago Bears travel to Pittsburgh for Monday Night Football. The Bears look to improve to 3-5, while the Steelers look to improve to 5-3. The game is scheduled for 8:15 p.m. on ESPN. Last night in NASCAR, Kyle Larson won the NASCAR Cup Series championship at Phoenix Raceway, holding off Martin Truex Jr. late. Larson won 10 points paying races this season, as well as the All-Star race in June. Behind Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin finished fifth, while 2020 champion Chase Elliott finished fifth, round out championship for drivers. The 2020 season starts with Daytona 500 on February 20th. In the NBA, the 6-4 Knicks travel to Philadelphia to take on the 8-2 76ers. New York has lost 3 of its last 4, while Philadelphia has won its last 6. The Knicks beat Philadelphia 112-99 on October 26th. Joel Embiid is inactive tonight under COVID-19 protocols. The game tips in just 5 minutes and can be found regionally on Madison Square Garden Network. The 7-3 Brooklyn Nets take on the 6-3 Chicago Bulls today at the United Center in Charlotte. The Nets have won their last 5 games, while the Bulls have dropped its last 2. Nicholas Claxton is out for the Nets. Game tips at 8 p.m. on NBA TV. Coming off a win over the Jazz, the Miami Heat travel to Denver to take on the 5-4 Nuggets. Denver's lost 2 of its last 3 games. Michael Porter Jr. and Vlatko Cancer are out for the Nuggets. The 8-1 Golden State Warriors host a struggling Atlanta Hawks tonight in San Francisco. Steph Curry has averaged 25 points thus far, lead the Warriors in top start. James Wiseman and Otto Porter Jr. are out tonight for Golden State. And the Charlotte Hornets visit the Los Angeles Lakers tonight at the Staples Center. Charlotte has lost its last 4 games, moved to 5-6 in the season, while the 5-5 Lakers has lost its last 2. LeBron James is out, and Anthony Davis is considered day-to-day. On the PGA Tour, Victor Hovland won the OHL Classic this week at El Camaleon Golf Club in Mexico. Hovland shot 4 under in the final round to finish at 23 under, which is 4 shots better than second-place finisher Carlos Ortiz. Justin Thomas finished 3rd. A quiet Monday ahead in the NHL tonight, but 2 New York teams do hit the ice. The New York Rangers host the Florida Panthers in a marquee matchup tonight at MSG. The Panthers are 10-0-1, while the Rangers are off to a respectable 6-3-3 start. Ryan Reeves is inactive, while Philip Chittle is day-to-day for the Rangers. The Buffalo Sabres travel to Washington this evening to take on the Capitals. Buffalo hopes to improve to 6-4-2, while the Capitals look to improve to 6-2-4. Both teams are off to strong starts. Craig Anderson, Casey Middlestat, and Victor Olofsson are all out for the Sabres. And in college basketball, the college basketball season kicks off tomorrow evening, including your St. Bonaventure Bonnies. St. Bonaventure hosts the Siena Saints of the MAC at 7 p.m. Tuesday in the Riley Center. Jalen Hadaway and Kyle Lofton are both game time decisions for the Bonnies. The game can be streamed on ESPN+. This is your Director's Cut Mid-Show Update. I'm Nathan Solid, and now back over to Nick and Tyler.
Thanks, Nate.
Thank you, Nate.
Great
Fantastic job. We appreciate it every week. And we're going to go right into some college football. College football playoff poll doesn't come out until tomorrow night.
Everybody stinks.
Everybody does stink besides one team. Georgia looks outstanding once again. Alabama looked terrible.
Yep.
Michigan State lost. Oregon won.
It was all right in the second half.
Ohio State, they won. Cincinnati should have lost. They maybe we were too quick to judge the committee last week about ranking them six.
I can't be doing 8-point wins over Tulsa. I can't do it.
If you are in the American Conference when it comes to football, and you want a chance to make the college football playoffs, they got the big non-conference win.
You're gonna roll teams.
Big non-conference win, check. In Notre Dame,
Great.
good win.
Awesome win.
Now blow out the rest of your conference.
Kill everyone.
It's like 2 or 3 straight weeks where they haven't shown me that they are a dominant team in their conference, which everyone trounced the committee last week when they were 6th. I don't know.
They might be 6th. No, committee's put them down again.
I think
like 8 right
they're
now.
going to put Michigan above them.
Yeah.
Because they dominated Indiana at home. They're gonna have them jump.
Yep.
So.
Well, but then Michigan State's going to go down too.
So
how far does Michigan State go down? Purdue is everybody's favorite trap.
I think Michigan State and Michigan. Well, they're not going to switch spots. But that's where Michigan State's going to go 7.
Yeah.
Because Oregon's going to jump to 3. Ohio State's going to jump to 4, and then Michigan's going to jump Cincinnati to 5. Mm-hmm. Cincinnati stays 6. And State's at 7.
I love when we get the first college football playoff ranking because we can all overreact, we can all bash the committee. And now we have a baseline to go off of. And just based off whatever happens in that next Saturday, you pretty much know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Which
is awesome. And we can kind of talk about that as the day goes on. Cincinnati didn't look good. They were playing sloppy offensively. The first half, they looked rough. I'm pretty sure they were damn near tied at the end of the first half.
It was 14. They had a 14-12 lead at half.
Yeah. That's bad. Tulsa's not a good football team.
No, 3-6.
Promise you, they're bad. They were 22.5-point favorites at home. They probably should have been favored by more.
Cincinnati's, I think, dreams are done. It kind of was a death sentence when they put them at 6 to start. But I was hey,
they didn't even control their own destiny.
Yeah, and it was like, hey, maybe if they blow out every single team from here on out and they get some help, they'll get in. But close game with Tulsa at home, goodbye.
You had you had a free spot to move up to 5 with Michigan State losing.
Yep,
you could have moved up.
Goodbye. They're not
done.
They're done.
Done chain. Hang the done chain.
The done
chain. Part of my take
yeah.
to do. The done chains on Cincinnati, even though they're still undefeated. They haven't lost, but we're hanging the done chain on them.
Yeah, Oklahoma didn't play this week. That's another.
Thank God.
That's another team that maybe would have jumped them. Who knows? Yeah, it's we've kind of harped this theme over the past 2 or 3 weeks about how this college football season's so meh. Like I said, Alabama at home against a bad LSU team. Couldn't put them away. It was unbelievable.
The game came down to the final minute. LSU had multiple chances to win that football game.
Georgia started off slow against Missouri, but ended up winning 43-6 at home. They look like the best team in the country by a million. Their defense is so good. Their offense is not good. Don't kid ourselves.
No.
But their defense is so good.
JC Daniels doesn't play.
It's like the Heisman's probably going to still go to Kenneth Walker.
Should.
It should. But
can't knock a running back for losing games.
Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle for Georgia, is making a case.
He'll be a top 5 pick.
Oh, he's been outstanding. Wake Forest, we talked about last week. If you just slap Clemson on their resume, would they be a top 4 team? We said yes. They dropped to the Tar Heels in North Carolina this week. Notre Dame, it wasn't a electric game.
113 points scored in that one. Nuts. Sam Howell versus Sam Hartman, former QB1 featured quarterback. That was just offense galore in that one. Over under 78. They smashed it by 40. Unbelievable stuff.
Notre Dame won at home against Navy. I don't think they could possibly make the playoffs.
They had one loss, right?
Yeah, and it's just Cincinnati at home. They don't play in a conference, so it's tough.
Rough, yeah, but they had a great schedule for what Notre Dame usually gets this year.
Yeah, it was definitely better than usual.
Like you said, you play enough good teams, and you can lose a lot of them. So.
Yeah. You asked in the show notes which Big Ten team is getting in now. Ohio State's going to get in the college football playoffs, unless.
What if they lose? They're done.
I don't think they do though. They do have to play Michigan State and Michigan and Purdue.
They're losing one of those games. I'm sorry, they're losing one of the games.
So here's my thing.
Is a 2-loss team going to get in?
That's a great question.
Or is Cincinnati going to have to get in?
That's a fantastic question. They kind of set up Alabama to like lose in the SEC championship game to Georgia and still be in.
Yeah.
They kind of set that up.
Oh.
The question is, like, this is a weak year. I think
it is a weak year. I forget who said it on TV, but the teams aren't being judged by losses anymore. They're being judged on their wins, which is honestly, that's kind of how it should go. But there's just not enough dominance this year throughout each conference. Like typically, Clemson's obviously dominating the ACC, so there's nobody else even remotely close in that conference. And Clemson's basically got a spot locked up. Alabama pretty much has a spot locked up, and then this year that version of Alabama is Georgia, and then you're finding those last two teams somewhere else. One of them could be a one-loss team. Both of them are typically undefeated as well. But this year you're probably going to have 3 out of 4. You're definitely going to have 3 out of 4 college football playoff teams with one loss.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think Georgia runs the table. I really do, because that's how good their defense is, and I don't think another team. I think that's going to be the only undefeated team in the playoff.
Yeah.
I don't think Cincinnati gets put in. I don't think Oklahoma gets put in.
Uh-oh.
And Oklahoma still has a couple tough games left. I don't even think they'll win out, to be honest. So it's definitely a meh college football year.
Not a lot of quarterback play that's just super exciting. Well, there is quarterback play that is super
Malik
exciting.
Willis versus Matt Corral this week was kind of cool.
It was cool, but Malik Willis just did. I mean, he didn't have any help. His team stinks.
No, it's because he's overrated and won't be a good NFL quarterback.
Ooh, there's a Nick take right there.
I pay attention to the NFL draft. It's one of my favorite things.
That's true. You're the resident draft guru.
I love the draft, and this is just one of those things where like the quarterback class is kind of weak.
Yep.
And so they just try to find, or when I say they, I'm kind of talking about like analysts as a whole. They try to find someone to pump up and maybe get top draft status. They try to do it with Malik Willis and Liberty. First real test of a defense, which is Ole Miss, who doesn't have a good defense. It was kind of a sarcasm. I get he has no help when he goes to Liberty, but 16 for 125, 173 yards, 3 interceptions, 23 QBR. When you play weak teams and ball out, that's fine. But then you play good team, like a decent team, and you struggle that much. People had him top 10 going to the Eagles. That's outrageous. Shouldn't even be a first-round pick. He will be a first-round pick, Malik Willis, but he shouldn't be. They've lost 3 games this year. They lost to Ole Miss, Syracuse, and who is this? ULM.
Monroe. Louisiana.
Yeah, Louis Warhawks.
Yes.
Like
not the Cajuns.
Yeah, they are. It's just they don't play anyone. So I can't. I mean the same thing with Carson Wentz. He was in the FCS. He had some good years, but
at least there was a pro comparison in him. I mean, Lamar Jackson, Malik Willis comparisons are asinine.
It's ridiculous.
They're not even remotely the same player. Carson Wentz at least had some, he had a big frame. He looked like a pro-style quarterback. Malik Willis runs around and makes some plays for a bad Liberty team. I'm not doing it. I can't do it, especially like you said, Ole Miss is the worst defense in the SEC.
I don't think any of these quarterbacks in this draft are going to be perennial.
Corral has really the best chance.
I don't even think he's going to be that good. So I heard Kenny Pickett
We're not doing this.
I heard Kenny Pickett from outside the booth. I'm not taking it.
Has been in college longer than I was in high school.
How old is Kenny Pickett? 24?
Got to be 24. He's approaching Cordy Stockard numbers of collegiate experience.
Did they lose this week?
Probably.
I think they did.
Oh my God.
No, they won. They lost to Miami last week. As we hear outside. Thank you. Kenny Pickett. I'm pulling up his age right now. This is getting out of hand. We're talking about Kenny Pickett.
Pittsburgh. We already talked too much about Pittsburgh and their immobile quarterback earlier that's playing tonight. I mean, going off another one who can barely play on Saturdays is just too much for one show.
23, but he'll be 24 before training camp next season.
He could start on Richmond's basketball team right now.
Oh, little shot at the Spiders.
Yep. Yeah, rough week for college football. Rough year for college football. Georgia's a wheelhouse. They're a wagon. I'm sorry. They have 12 defensive NFL players. You can't argue with that. Alabama looks much more mush than they do in years past. So it's looking like a one-man show this year in college football, and that's the Georgia Bulldogs. When we come back to the NFL. Takeaways, power rankings, and stinker stories. Stick with us. You're listening to Director's Cut. Nic Rohloff and Tyler Smith on WSBU 88.3 The Buzz.
Welcome back into WSBU 88.2 The Buzz, live from St. Bonaventure University. You're listening to the Director's Cut with Tyler Smith and Nic Rohloff. It's time to transition into Week 9 of the NFL. I know our two teams, well, your team didn't play,
Thank God.
but you have optimism after
So
after brave news making today. My Patriots picked up another win, 3 in a row, got above 500. We'll get into that a little bit later, but it's time to jump into our Week 9 takeaways, and I'll lead us off. And my first one is we might have it's a two-parter.
Okay.
Might have jumped the gun with the Bengals.
Definitely.
/ Baker better without Odell is a real thing. Oh, obviously Odell got dropped. He's going to be clearing waivers, or he might not be clearing waivers, but he has the eligibility to be picked up on waivers tomorrow at 4. If not, he'd be cleared waivers and he becomes a free agent. But if you just look throughout Baker Mayfield's career, it's somehow been better without Odell Beckham.
Absolutely.
And then they go into Cincinnati, rout the Bengals 41-16. And after we were chanting Bengals the world beaters after beating Baltimore and moving to 5-2, they've now dropped 2 in a row to the Jets and at home to Cleveland in a big one.
You can't lose that game.
You can't. And now they're in the back seat. And assuming the Steelers win today, somehow the Browns or the Bengals are going to be the worst team in the division after leading the division 2 weeks ago. Think about that for a
That's just
second.
crazy because like you said, the Steelers win tonight.
They'll be 5-3.
Oh my God.
And the Bengals are 5-4. Browns are 5-4 with the tiebreaker after the head-to-head win.
Oh man.
I mean, but it's just so crazy how better Baker looks. I don't know if it's like he is just really doesn't like Odell, or it's just when he doesn't have like a quote-unquote diva wide receiver asking for the ball, he just feels more comfortable spreading the ball around. But that deep bomb to Donovan Peoples-Jones looked fantastic, 60-yarder for a tutty yesterday. Nick Chubb was running all over the Bengals. And this is we got ahead of ourselves with the Bengals. We just like them because we like Joe Burrow, we like Jamar Chase, we like Joe Mixon, we like the young.
They got some flash of talent.
We like the young offense. But coming into the season, we didn't expect them to be I projected them to be 6-11, 7-10. I didn't expect them to be an above 500 team. So I got caught by surprise by the start, but then I get reminded by this game, their secondary is still, it's got to come a long way. Their front seven has to come a long way. And, I mean, they had too many turnovers yesterday. It's kind of the thing. Burrow's turned the ball over a little bit more than I'd like. That pick on the opening drive of the game, stick route.
I need to see some stats on how often you win a game after throwing a pick six, because it seems like it's just a recipe for disaster as far as Tone said.
Denzel Ward jumps the stick route. Jamar Chase at the 4-yard line. It's unbelievable how much Joe Burrow targets Jamar Chase. I get he's good, but I think maybe sometimes it's good to throw to other people.
You have other weapons. T. Higgins is good. Tyler Boyd has been good for years. And then you got guys like CJ
Uzama.
It is Uzama, but sometimes I get it wrong and say Uzama. He's made it very clear that he wants his name pronounced correctly, so I make a point to do that when I mention him. But he's a good player. You have weapons like Mixon and other guys in the backfield that can catch passes as well. Targeting Jamar Chase 15 times a game, it's going to produce a lot of yards. It's going to produce long touchdowns. But it's also going to produce things like that where you're forcing the ball in, especially in short yardage situations. Like Jamar Chase, in my opinion, isn't going to be a red zone target when you're in that range. Like, you could catch him running across the back of the end zone once in a while. But on that stick route, 5 yards away from the end zone, you have Joe Mixon in the back. You have your jump ball receiver, which is really T. Higgins. And then you got a tight end to go to. So I think there's 3 better options for you to go to inside the 5 if you are going to pass the ball. Jamar Chase isn't that. He's definitely more of a big play receiver for this Bengals offense. So.
Yeah, Tyler, let's hear your first takeaway.
All right, so my first takeaway is kind of weird because it's not really encompassing one game or one team, but I have no idea who's going to win the AFC West. That's just plain and simple.
Everybody's either 5-3 or 5-4. I've never seen it before. But you weren't going to see that if the Steelers win today.
That's also true. So the West and then the AFC West and the AFC North are going to be real hard to predict if things shake out the way they're supposed to tonight. AFC West, the Chargers, they might have one of the worst secondaries I've ever seen. Really, really bad in coverage. Asante Samuel Jr. has looked really good to start the year as a rookie. He's hurt. Mike Davis is another one. Michael Davis, he's a cornerback, pretty talented on the Chargers, as well. He's out with injury. Derwin James never been the most locked down safety as far as coverage goes. He's not lining up on elite outside receivers. He's covering his own deep. Jalen Hurts actually, got whatever he wanted yesterday. Whether it was a rollout scramble for 5 yards and a first down, he got it. He wanted it. If Devonta Smith wanted a route over the middle or out the sideline, he got it. It was very easy for the Philadelphia Eagles to move the ball yesterday, and it resulted in eventual Chargers 3-point game-winning field goal. Made my pockets very happy, I'll tell you that much. But the Chargers look too inconsistent right now. They've been in games that shouldn't be that close. They've lost some games that they shouldn't have lost. And they've also been, in other weird games as well. They're just a little too inconsistent for me. The Broncos, frauds. Sorry. Cowboys, that's a trap game. It happens. Everybody gets one. Saw it with another team I'll go to in sticker stories. But they're fine. The Cowboys are fine. But the Broncos still stink. I'm sorry, they're still bad. I don't care about your two-headed rushing attack with Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon.
Javonte, talented runner, get him more touches.
He is talented. I agree. Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams are not A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. I'll get to the Packers in a little bit as well. So Broncos still stink. Chiefs couldn't even put more than 13 points up on a Packers defense that struggles in the secondary. They're still bad. They have holes. They need to fix them. Patrick Mahomes needs to play better. Raiders seem to beat right now, in my opinion, because they lose that game to the Giants yesterday. But there's so much extracurriculars going on with the Raiders right now and Henry Ruggs. I mean, in just a month's span, you fire John Gruden after finding out about all these emails and conversations and such. Then the Henry Ruggs incident happens, and you have to cut him. And it's so sad for obviously what happened. We didn't really touch much on it because it was right actually after our show that last week. So next up is Damon Arnett, their first-round cornerback last year. Video surfaces of him flashing guns around. I mean, you cut him today. So
that's both. They had two 2020 first-round picks. Both of them are now off the team. Henry Ruggs and Damon Arnett.
That's Jaguars behavior right there, and but it's not the Raiders' fault at the end of the day. It's just not. Derek Carr is doing all he can to save face out there. He's just a warrior when it comes to the media. He's basically facing all this adversity. He just shows up with a smile on his face every day and competes. I love Derek Carr. He keeps balling, but AFC West, it's a total jumble of nonsense right now. No team looks good enough to win a playoff game right now, but I don't know who's going to be the one that appears in the postseason.
The crazy thing is, it's with the AFC and how that. I mean, the Patriots, if the season ended today, would be the 7th wildcard team, 5-4.
Pats are getting it.
They're realistically all 4 teams are in the hunt.
Yep.
We anticipate 1, maybe 2 getting in, but there's a legit chance that 3 of them do. Obviously, they're gonna bite into each other as the season goes on. Obviously, big game this Sunday night. Raiders Chiefs.
Huge.
I don't think there's been too many in-division games already. I know the Chargers have already taken one from the Chiefs. I don't know if the Chargers and Raiders have played.
The Chargers and Raiders have played on Monday night.
They have played? Oh, you're right. They did play on Monday night. That was who the Chargers won, right?
Yeah, Chargers won. It's a pretty good game, though.
Yeah, I think I correct us if we're wrong. I think the Chargers won. I could be wrong. But either way, the whole AFC as a whole, there's not one clear-cut division winner. Nope. Actually, there is. Titans, sorry. But you thought the Bills were one until they're not. And I was going to get into it more of my Patriots takeaway, and I will in a couple weeks ago, or in not a couple weeks, a couple takeaways from now.
That, by the way, watch the Colts come back and win the division.
That'd be something. But the Patriots only half game away from the Bills. Going into my second takeaway, and it's that the Saints are exactly who we thought they were, and that is an inconsistent team. Nice. I know Jameis Winston is out for the year, and that's a big blow. But then you're 5-2, and everybody was like, "Wait a minute, the Saints are 5-2. How is that a thing?" And then they're at home against the Falcons, who actually would be a playoff team if it ended now.
They could be. They're going to sneak in. Watch them sneak in.
They're literally. I'm pretty sure.
They're so bad.
I'm 95% sure. I'm betting myself here, but I saw it somewhere earlier today that if the playoffs literally happened today, the Falcons would be in. They're the 7th seed, 4-4. Unbelievable. Either way, they go into New Orleans and win, even though they should have lost.
Yep.
The Saints had 0 points at halftime, 10-0.
Yep.
Scored 3 points in the third quarter, 22 in the fourth quarter. Ended up just losing on a game-winning Younghoe Koo field goal by the Falcons. But it is outlandish that the Falcons would be the playoffs today. And just throw it out there, that's 3 NFC South teams in the playoffs if it started today. And the first team out would be the Panthers. So the NFC South somehow, some way, has the top 4 of the top 8 seeds in the NFC. It is bonkers over there. But either way, the Saints are way too inconsistent. I don't know who's going to kick them out of the playoffs.
It'll be somebody.
I do think your Seattle Seahawks will end up making it with Russ coming back, just because of how bad the rest of it is. But do the Falcons drop out? I don't think the Saints are a playoff team. They're not good.
You mentioned the Saints are inconsistent. What happened at the end of the game yesterday was that the Saints. Well, the Saints came back. The Saints should have won the game. They came back and took a lead in the last 2 minutes of the game, by 1. And that's, you get that side of things. Super consistent, whatever. Great drive. Then in just a minute, you let Matt Ryan drive down the field. In a minute. And I think I'm pretty sure it took like 30 seconds. They let Matt Ryan drive down the field. Cordero Patterson had another big play.
Patterson's something else.
He is something else. What a story he's got, pretty much at 30 years old, reviving his NFL career. He used to be a kick returner. Now he's doing it at all 3 levels with the ball in his hands. So he's really, really something for that Falcons team. Kind of what makes them go. Matt Ryan drives down a minute, and basically a 15-yard field goal from where he took it. So it was cake work for the Atlanta Falcons to win that game yesterday.
Unbelievable. And that was my second takeaway before we get into our teams after. But Tyler, what is your second takeaway?
My second takeaway is that the Packers are screwed after next year. Screwed.
Yeah, Jordan Love looks bad.
I could have. Oh boy. If you didn't hear that from outside, Michael Seitz, our producer for the night, really chiming in with all this Pittsburgh takes. He says Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Steeler next year. But hey, well, that could be the case. Green Bay will not be where Aaron Rodgers is next season, and
Devontae Adams is a free agent after this year too.
Yeah, no, they're done. They're down bad. I guess they're just going to work AJ Dillon to be in their franchise cornerstone because they run the heck out of him. Aaron Rodgers not going to be in Green Bay next year, and when you're handing the keys to Jordan Love, based off what we saw yesterday, I was going to turn this into a stinker story because the game stunk. Jordan Love stunk just a little bit worse, so that I could talk about him here. The Kansas City Chiefs defense has been much maligned all season long. They are horrendous, like really, really bad. They had some plays yesterday that were still such Kansas City defense plays that I was like, oh, the Packers, they're going to get another score here. No, they put up 7 points against a bad Kansas City defense. Against a Patrick Mahomes that puts up 13 points. That game was overrun on that game was 45.5, whatever. If you score 20 total, that's bad. I mean, I know the Bills and the Jags scored 15 total. That's just a total anomaly. We're getting to that in just a few minutes. You score 20 points total in this game, the Packers have to have more than 7 of those points at the end of the day. That was bad. And Jordan Love was at the helm of that. He was missing throws. He threw a pick. Just not good all around from Jordan Love. I did not like what I saw. I didn't like what I saw pre-draft. I did not understand why he was such a first-round talent, especially from a team like the Packers 2 years ago. Just a total mess in Green Bay. They are going to have much more questions than answers heading into the offseason. Trust that.
Yeah, the Packers. This is like they joked around on social media and said last dance between Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. It 100%.
Make zero mistake.
Yeah.
It absolutely is the last dance.
Aaron Rodgers, I mean, we could talk about Aaron Rodgers for a long time about what his situation with the media is. But either way, we're going to strictly talk about football. And let's move into our weekly takeaways.
We're a sports show.
Yeah.
We don't do this politics.
Yeah, weekly takeaways when it comes to our sports teams. And we'll start in New England, who, like I said, got their 3rd straight win, 5-4 above 500 for the first time this season. And, I mean, it was an ugly game. But, I mean, if you know anything about the Patriots over the last 20 years, that they know how to win ugly, that starts with their coach, Bill Belichick. The defense is coming into its own. I was skeptical of this defense, but they actually are if you just look off the scoring, like defense, scoring offense, they're the 4th best defense when it comes to giving up points per game this season. J.C. Jackson has turned into an absolute lock of a corner. Gave up 1 catch for 2 yards in coverage yesterday, 2 picks, including an 88-yard touchdown return. Most interceptions in the NFL since 2018. J.C. Jackson with 22. Most interceptions in the NFL since 2019. J.C. Jackson with 19. Most interceptions in the NFL since 2020. J.C. Jackson, 14. He is a legitimate cornerback 1 out there, and he's nothing to play with. If Jalen Mills can step it up on the other side, this secondary is lethal, and Judon's getting to the quarterback every week. Christian Barmore, the steal of a defensive tackle in the 2nd round. Projected top 15th pick, fell in the draft because of maturity concerns. I don't know what that means, but he's been an absolute stud for New England this year. And
this is a classic Belichick.
I saw mock drafts of him going to I saw mock drafts of Barmore going to New England at pick 15. They get him with pick 38.
That's the Malcolm Brown this year.
They get him pick 38. The Patriots are one of 4 teams 4 to have a top 10 scoring offense and a top 10 scoring defense, excuse me. Cardinals have the second best offense, third best defense. Bills, fourth best offense, best defense. Rams, fifth best offense, best or 10th best defense. Patriots, 10th best offense, fourth best defense. They will make the playoffs. I am never more confident than now that this team is trending in the right direction with a rookie quarterback, Mac Jones, who didn't play well yesterday. But like I said, they know how to win ugly. Good running game, good defense. And I wouldn't even put it too far out of it. It's a reach, but that AFC East division title is not too far out of it. The Patriots got through their tough schedule. They played the Saints already. They played the Cowboys already. They played the Buccaneers already. They had a bad loss against the Dolphins. That infuriates me to this day. But they've played every game super, super close. They match up with Buffalo 2 times at the end of the season. Still have a matchup with the Dolphins and Jaguars. And it's not out of the question. That's all I'm saying.
It's definitely not out of the question. The Pats look good. They do. And they're beating teams on the road that they should beat. Mac Jones kind of getting those early, rookie scaries out of the way, especially on the road. And you got to beat bad teams when you're playing on the road. But I seriously think that the Patriots are a playoff team. I've kind of felt that way for a couple weeks now. I just had to see how their schedule, worked out. They look good. Mac Jones looks like the best rookie quarterback still. And J.C. Jackson, like you said, top 5 cornerback in the league. It's not even close. Seattle didn't play this week. But we're back next week. Russell Wilson is coming back. Finger is fine. Did you see what his doctor said? He said it was the quickest recovery of any quarterback of any injury he's ever seen. Oh, this guy is a specimen. Have you seen the reports of Odell Beckham wanting to come to Seattle? He wants Russell Wilson throwing him the ball, and he wants it next Sunday against that unvaxxed, lying piece of junk Aaron Rodgers. This is going to be the start of something magical in Seattle. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and Odell Beckham Jr. all run blocking for Alex Collins next week against Green Bay. Oh, I just can't wait to come back on this show Monday night and scream about it. Oh, the Seahawks are making the playoffs. You look at the schedule. Packers win. I don't care. Cardinals win. I don't care. They need to get knocked off their pedestal. Washington football team, they stink. Who's their quarterback? 49ers, they stink. Texans, who is their quarterback? Rams, probably was that one. Bears win. Lions win. Cardinals, we're sweeping them. I don't care. Seahawks are making the playoffs, baby. We're going to go 10-7, and we're in. We're only 3-5. I remember that. Like the season is not over. Seattle's back. OBJ is coming tomorrow. We're all fine. They didn't play this week, so I get to really air the Seahawks out a little bit today. I get to give them some praise because they didn't do anything wrong to me this week.
That was a rant, I tell you.
A good rant, though. Positive rant. The Seahawks are back.
Oh, I couldn't help myself from laughing on that one. I'm gonna be honest.
It was rough.
You came out blazing.
Oh yeah.
So
we're so back.
I just had to sit back and listen to that.
So back. Now I get to be even more animated, but about way less exciting things as we move into stinker stories. Everybody's favorite of the week, best segment. Here we go. Starting off with maybe the worst NFL game of all time. There's 2 Josh Allens playing in a game, but in fact, not one is playing quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. One, they're both playing for Jacksonville. Josh Allen, actually, the linebacker, sacks Josh Allen, the quarterback. Josh Allen, the linebacker, actually intercepts Josh Allen, the quarterback. And Josh Allen, the linebacker, recovers a fumble from the quarterback, Josh Allen. What is this Josh Allenception going on in Jacksonville this weekend? Jags win 9-6, and the Bills look like they have some questions to be answered. Next up, the other maybe worst NFL game of all time. Jacoby Brissett faces off against Tyrod Taylor in a horrible, horrible game. I think not Chris Hansen, I say that all the time. Scott Hansen put this game on Red Zone maybe twice in 4 quarters. That might be a record. Jacoby Brissett, mediocre game at best. Tyrod Taylor, even worse. Touchdown interception ratio 0-3, and there was just nothing coming offensively from either team. Jaylen Waddle, he kind of looks good. That's probably the only good player on either one of these teams. Moving forward, I was going to talk about Packers and Chiefs, but I already kind of touched on that one. We're going to go with which one stunk the worst? The Giants and the Raiders, that was pretty bad. That was a bad game, but I had Giants +3 because it's a home dog. You got to take it. And the money line. You know what? We'll just talk about my parlay. Giants Falcons, Chargers, all money line, plus a lot. And that one hit. That was my prayer that had to be answered by the gambling gods. But if we just look straight up at this game, Daniel Jones won a football game by passing for 110 yards. I mean, could you imagine anything more from Daniel Jones? He didn't throw an interception, but he did have a textbook Danny Jones fumble. The Giants are pretty weak. Hopefully they get Saquon Barkley back in these coming weeks. But if you're seeing a team like the Giants play a team like the Raiders, expect a stinker. And those are your stinker stories for this week.
Yeah, I mean, you just talk about that Raiders-Giants games. The Giants defense won that game.
Oh, yeah.
Forced Derek Carr to fumble
2 picks
on the end of the pick. Xavier McKinney, pick 6. So that was a surprising game, I will say. Didn't see that one. I mean, if you would have told me the Giants won, I said okay, but the way it happened definitely
the
wasn't
Raiders
the way.
should have tied the game up in the final couple seconds. I was watching the game. They came back.
I mean, but if you told me before the game the Giants won, I would have been like, okay, not that surprised with everything that's going on with the Raiders.
Yeah.
But the way it happened was what got me.
Just grinded out game between two quarterbacks who just aren't in the upper echelon of signal callers.
Yeah, we're going to head to break. When we come back, we round out our show with our classic Director's Cut Power 5. So stay tuned. You listen to Director's Cut on WSBU 80.3 The Buzz from St. Bonaventure University. Tyler Smith and Nic Rohloff will be back in just a bit.
it's going to be a Bonnie party tomorrow. As the St. Bonaventure Bonnies open back their college basketball season in the Riley Center, 7 p.m. versus Siena, 20.5-point spread. Take the Bonnies tomorrow. But the last 10 minutes of our show, we have our textbook segment here on the Director's Cut. It's Director's Cut Power 5. Mine and Nick's top 5 teams in the NFL through week 9. Not technically through week 9, but I don't think either of us are going to have the Steelers or the Bears, regardless of tonight's outcome. So, Nick, why don't you start us off? Who's your number 1 team in the NFL currently? I think we might have said.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you could not have the same one after this weekend of craziness. But the one constant that has remained, I dropped them down quite a bit last week, but now I have them back at the number 1 spot, the Arizona Cardinals. I said it earlier. They won a game against a division opponent on the road, and it's not like they're playing a division opponent like the Jaguars or the Texans or the Lions. They're playing the 49ers, who have a competent roster.
Competent enough.
Yeah, I mean, Colt McCoy, James Conner, Christian Kirk. Yes, that was the trio that dominated the 49ers defense. And I can only imagine what Kyler Murray, D-Hop, and Chase Edmonds would have done. They lost T.J. Watt for the year, but J.J. Watt. But Chandler Jones, Budda Baker, they're playing lights out. And the Cardinals keep on rolling, 8-1, best record in the league.
Yep, for the reasons you said, and even more, the Cardinals are the best team in the NFL. If you can win a game with Colt McCoy, he actually beat Colt McCoy gives me nightmares. He beat the Seahawks last year while he was on the Giants. If you don't know, I'm from downstate New York. All my friends are Giants fans, and that was just a game from hell. If you've ever seen one as a fan, that was rough for me. But yeah, I got the Cardinals back at number 1 as well. The Cardinals actually had their 3rd game this season with 5+ sacks. That leads the NFL, and they're getting pressure in every other game as well. Even without J.J. Watt, this defense is still good enough to get back to the get to the Super Bowl and come out of the NFC. Cliff Kingsbury's got these boys rolling in Arizona, and even though they lose J.J. Watt, still got a lot of weapons on defense. Chandler Jones, Marcus Golden, Budda Baker, Isaiah Simmons. At all 3 levels, there are elite playmakers on the Cardinals defense. And you bring those offensive pieces back, Kyler Murray, Chase Edmonds, hopefully he gets healthy back in a few weeks, and DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, this team is borderline unbeatable.
Yeah, Tyler, why don't you roll into your number 2 team?
But number 2, I was having struggles because multiple teams in this spot lost this past week, and there's just one team that didn't lose. They didn't win, they didn't lose. I got the Bucs back at number 2. Your best availability, your best ability could be availability, but not in this week with a lot of certain teams that fell in some trap games. The Buccaneers avoided that this week, so I got them back at 2. The defense, this actually could raise them up a ranking no matter who won or lost otherwise, because this gives the defense an opportunity to get a little more healthy, gives Tom Brady a rest, and extracurricular factors that'll just help this Buccaneers team in the near future. So I got the Bucs back in number 2.
Unfortunately for our listeners, they're going to have to hear us agree again. I do have the Bucs at 2.
I feel like you can't not have them at 2.
Everything you said, I couldn't say better. I mean, the defense got healthier. The offense, Antonio Brown is apparently still in a walking boot, according to Bruce Arians.
Give him a week. There you go.
But I really don't think it hurts their offense. Antonio Brown's in a luxury. Very talented player, but you take him off their team, I don't think it really matters too much in the grand scheme of things. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Tyler Johnson can still get the job done. If you just add Antonio Brown to that, it just makes them even more unstoppable. So I don't think it's that big of a loss if even he's out for the next 2 or 3 weeks, getting extra healthy on that foot. But I'll roll into 3.
What do you got?
The 3, 4, 5 for me this week were so tough because most of these teams lost, and it's how much do I read into this loss or not? But I'm actually taking the lone AFC team in my Power 5, and it's the Tennessee Titans.
Interesting.
Yes, no Derrick Henry, but the defense showed me a lot of things I didn't expect to see. If they could bring that pass rush and playmaking ability every single week, which I know it's a lot to ask, but even just 80% of the weeks and then bring it in the postseason, they're going to be a tough out. A.J. Brown, Julio, one of the best wide receiver duos out there. Tannehill can feed them. They're still going to run the ball down your throat and smash mouth football into play action. Might not be as effective, but they're going to run the same offense even without Derrick Henry. And like I said, if that defense keeps on playing like it did yesterday, they're a really tough team, and I think I mean, it's hard for me to put the Rams above them considering they just lost at home to them. So I got the Titans at 3.
So I understand what you're saying. I can't put the Titans at 3 right now. Let's just. I'm sorry. It was a trap. At the end of the day, that game was a trap. Matt Stafford played the worst game maybe of his career. He must have just thought he was in Detroit last night because I have the Rams back at number 3. I'm sorry. I'm not really looking too much into this loss for Los Angeles. I will look more into it for the Titans, though, who will be featured in my Power 5. Maybe not now, maybe not even the next one, but they'll be featured.
So they're 5.
Yeah, they are 5. But the Rams sit at number 3. I still think that their offense is just so well-oiled. They faced a great game plan at the end of the day last night from Mike Vrabel, one of the best coaches in the NFL. And that's going to take the Titans a long way. But right now, I still don't see a reason why, a Rams team with the addition of Von Miller over these next few weeks. I still would think if the Rams played tonight against the Titans, the Rams would come out with the win. I think a couple things went the Titans' way, and that's what determined, the outcome of the game and the tone of the game as a whole. So I still got the Rams at number 3. I think they could beat a lot of teams in this league.
Yeah, and the Rams are my 4th spot.
Okay. Fair enough.
So I have them just right with them. Like I said, the Titans showed me a lot of things. So if you go back and ask the question, does this show you more about the Rams or Titans? To me, it was more about the Titans than the Rams. So I don't want to drop the Rams too far back, even though they were my number 1 team last week. They are the 4th team this week. You just spoke highly about them. I agree with everything you said. I still think I do believe that they are truly the second best team. Or when it comes to playoffs time, I think I'd have them as the second team to make out of the NFC, even though they're going to be the 5 seed.
Mm-hmm.
So who's your 4?
Okay, so when I was looking at my Power 5 this week, I was thinking, if I put the Titans at 4, that means that I have to call the Titans the best team in the AFC, and they're not. They're just not. And, our producer, Michael Jagger Seitz, was in here earlier telling us that there is maybe potentially the most overrated team in football. And you know what? I could care less. The Baltimore Ravens are the 4th best team in the NFL. Listen, they duke it out against another great win this week. Justin Tucker saving them once again. But you know what? A win's a win.
I can't stay silent. You are wrong.
Oh, that's real bold coming into our show with the director's position. Election winning. That's real bold of you, Jagger. But no, all jokes aside, Ravens, I'm legit. I'm sorry. They're very good. They got production out of their running backs yesterday. I mean, Devonta Freeman looked pretty good. Le'Veon Bell looked pretty good. Obviously, next year you're waiting for J.K. Dobbins to come back. But those guys looked good enough to shoulder the offense when Lamar Jackson's not the ball carrier. And Rashad Bateman looks really, really good coming away from injury. He was injured for the first couple weeks of the season. Now he looks great. His first 11 catches of his career were all first downs. Mark Andrews looks great. Marquise Hollywood-Brown looks great. I mean, the weapons are materializing in front of Lamar Jackson's eyes. If he can just make that, split-second better decision, the Ravens could be hopping up to 3, potentially 2, potentially 1 once these, Power 5s keep rolling out. I think the Ravens are legit. They have the talent on offense. They have the talent on defense. They just need to put it all together for that one complete stretch of the NFL season. The Ravens will be moving up my rankings soon enough.
So we already know who your 5 is. You kind of alluded to it. It's Tennessee
They kind of
Titans.
stink. I'm not in on them yet. I'm not in on them yet. I can't do it.
All right. My 5th is I really had to take a pick of teams that lost this week, but we know are good. And the team I went with is the Dallas Cowboys.
Interesting.
Bad home loss against Denver.
But it's not as bad of a home loss or loss in general as the Bills, right?
Right. Like, I don't care where that game is played. It could be played on the moon. The Bills should never lose to the Jaguars. It's just such a bad loss to lose to that team this year. So I'm going to put the Cowboys there. I don't know if it was just Dak being rusty, 2 weeks off, calf injury. I don't know what it was.
Should have played Cooper Rush.
They didn't have a lot of life in them. I expect that to change. They'll come out angry and mad when they play the Falcons this next week. Hammer the Cowboys, whatever the line is. They're going to win by 3 touchdowns. I will guarantee that.
I'm sorry, who do they got next week?
The Falcons. The Cowboys are going to come out blazing.
No, the trick is you have to start betting teams. If you're a betting guy, as we close the show here, if you want to for sure lock, bet the team that didn't cover the spread. No, this has to be a solid team already. Bet a solid team that didn't cover the spread last week against a team that did cover the spread that's not as good the following week. And that's where you get the Cowboys and the Falcons, because the Falcons cover 6.5. Dallas doesn't cover their spread. I think it was 10.
Yeah, it was 10.
And, both of them actually win and lose outright opposite their, odds. So start doing that. I mean, I think that'd be a pretty good foolproof system. That's where you get the Bills and the Jets this week. That'll be a lot of fun to see how Buffalo responds. But top of the hour has come, 8 o'clock. John Rothstein actually just got a tweet notification. 19 hours
there you
until
go.
the 21-22 college basketball season is officially underway. So we're all excited about that. The Bonnies are back, like I said, and tomorrow 7 o'clock versus Siena on ESPN Plus. Watch that. It's going to be a great game. Really fun start for our 5 seniors coming back this year. It's been the Director's Cut with Nic Rohloff and Tyler Smith on WSBU 88.3 The Buzz. Stick with us. We're coming back next Monday, same time, same place. Thanks for listening. We'll see you all later.